Welcome to Finnegan's Fireside Tales. Today we will be reading To Build a Fire by Jack London. Day had broken cold and grey, exceedingly cold, yet grey with the pale sun struggling weakly over the horizon. The man sat a long time in the grey dawn, looking at the old trail and thinking of the dangers of the white silence of the Yukon. He was a newcomer in the land, a Chechaquo, and this was his first winter. The man traveled along the Yukon trail with deliberate steps, thinking of the icy cold that was already biting through his clothing. He was experienced in traveling the land, but he was new to the extreme cold of the Yukon. He knew that one misstep, one slip of carelessness, could be fatal. He had traveled for hours, yet he thought little of the distance. The cold was intense, and the snow crunched beneath his feet. He noted the glittering white world, the frost on the trees, and the river frozen solid. The cold was so intense that the man could feel it in his bones, and he was aware that it was a silent but powerful force in this land. The man carried no companions, only a dog, which had traveled ahead and now ran back to him, sniffing the cold air. The dog was an old husky, accustomed to the northern climate. Its fur was thick and warm, and it seemed unaffected by the bitter cold. The man and the dog made their way across the frozen Yukon, each step deliberate, each moment a struggle against the elements. The man stopped occasionally to rest and consider his progress. He was traveling to meet the boys, a group of men camped on the Yukon, and he knew the trail was long. He thought little of his own skills, but he respected the cold, the snow, and the powerful forces of the land. As the day progressed, the temperature dropped further. The man could feel the frost creeping into his extremities, and he knew the danger of traveling alone in such conditions. He paused to build a fire. He gathered twigs and dry wood, making careful consideration of each piece. The fire was small but strong, and it gave him the warmth he needed. He continued along the trail, mindful of the cold and of the snow-covered world around him. The day wore on, and the cold became more intense. The man traveled on, occasionally glancing at the dog, which ran ahead and then returned, ever alert to the dangers of the Yukon. The sun sank lower, and the cold deepened. The man knew he must reach the camp by nightfall. He walked swiftly, thinking little of the danger, yet conscious of the frost biting through his clothing. He stopped to build another fire, careful to shield it from the wind, careful to use only dry twigs. The day passed, the sun disappeared, and night came. The man, exhausted and chilled to the bone, struggled to make fire again. The snow and ice were treacherous. He dropped his matches into the snow, his hands numb and clumsy. The wind howled through the trees, and the cold seemed to pierce him more deeply than before. The man attempted desperately to light a fire, gathering wood and striking match after match. The frostbitten wood would not catch. He struck a match. It flared and went out. Another, and another. His hands were numb, his strength failing. The snow fell, and the night became darker and colder. He sank to his knees, struggling with the bitter cold and the failing light. The fire would not start. He remembered the advice of the old-timer: never travel alone in the Yukon when the cold is extreme. He had ignored it, and now he paid the price. The dog whined softly, instinctively moving close to the man for warmth. The man tried to cover his hands and face, trying to retain what little heat remained. He thought of the fire he could not make, of the cold, of the lonely trail, and of the inevitable end that the Yukon imposed upon him. Finally, the man realized he could not save himself. The frost had taken hold, the cold was overwhelming, and the fire could not be built. He sank into the snow, feeling the numbing cold, feeling life slip away. The dog, sensing the death of its companion, lay close by, whining and shivering. The man's struggle ended, and the cold claimed him. The Yukon was silent again, the white wilderness vast and indifferent. The dog, faithful and instinctive, turned and moved slowly toward the distant camp, leaving the frozen trail behind. The wilderness remained, as it had always been, vast, silent, and indifferent to the struggles of man.